So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Help the Helpers this morning. And we're so pleased to have Monica with us from Germany. And Katerina is going to read her bio. And I am off today to Rome to present a workshop for the self-psychology conference. So I'm going to be with you for the first half, but not with you for the second half. But I really wanted to be introduced to your work, Monica. So I delayed my flight. No, I didn't delay my flight, but so I'm handing it over to Katerina.
Monica Katerina Lynn, Diploma PhD University. As a coordinator in training, it is my concern and joy to support creative and innovative developments and to integrate focusing and thinking at the edge, TAE, into different areas of work and life. For me, it all began in a TAE workshop in a university context. This was followed by training as an experiential concept coach, ECC, to use TAE for coaching individuals as well as groups. As a focusing trainer, I related focusing and TAE to my work as an educational scientist and project manager with a focus on learning and familiarizing myself with experience. I skipped a line. With a focus on intercultural learning and second language acquisition in adult education. Currently, I am deepening my own learning and familiarizing myself with experiential ALBA emoting, EAE. It is wonderful to organize an annual focusing summer week in the well-known Achberg with other German-speaking focusing trainers from the Focusing Network, FN. So this will be in the chat and you can click on links. I also enjoy to be connected to the Spanish focusing community, Focusing España. It is of importance for me to support our international community in the membership committee, TIFI, the Focusing International Focusing Institute. Finally, I have found a connection with my research interest in the International Research Group, Embodied Critical Thinking, ECT, at the University of Iceland. And then we have her contact. So over to you, Monica. Maybe we all like to know about that university where you first encountered focusing.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation and for this introduction and the heartwarming project in advance where we practice the poem together. Yeah, I really enjoy we are here based on a poem. Maybe, yeah, because it invited me to come here with a poem that, as I shared in the pre-chat, is with me since I'm 18. And it inspired me to create this session today, which will be like a shared exploration based on TAE and the way I learned to integrate TAE, focusing in TAE on my work, which is in the field of second language acquisition. I work with immigrants, especially refugees, adults, but also young adults. And yes, therefore I face a lot of complexity, which, that was the inspiration from your side, help for helpers. Like when I know your group, I follow the sessions, but when I read it in context with invitation, it was like, wow, this means to be a helper means to be confronted with lots of complexity of other lives and how to deal with this. So this is kind of my invitation here. How can we use TAE, the moves of TAE, to deal with this complexity and make sense out of it, or create a carrying forward direction, or that it helps us to stand in the middle of all this. Yeah. And this is already like an invitation from the poem to stand. And therefore, I would like to invite you for a little grounding and to practice standing. So I will do it. And if you feel comfortable, you can follow me. So maybe you want to take off your shoes or even socks to be really in touch with the ground. And so, yeah, hope you can feel me. By the way, that's a lake in Bavaria where I live, and it's quite an inspiring lake for me, so I thought I'd bring it here. And you're invited to stand in your exhale. Feel your feet on the ground, maybe as if you are at the beach, of a lake or the ocean. Just the place you really like, face the nature you like. Hands into that contact with the earth. Your bare feet on the earth. Yeah, find really your axis, like the view to the horizon. Maybe you want to have your eyes even open. And just notice how your body is in this axis. Maybe you want to feel your head, like there's a string on your head and it pulls you up. Chin a little bit there, and just play also a little bit with your position. Like, what's a very good position for you? Comfortable to stand there, connected to the earth, grounded, stable. Maybe you want to get some flexibility in your knees. And view up to the horizon. And you're stable there, grounded, connected, flexible. And just notice how you're breathing there in this position. Allow your body to make movements to find a really good position. Just notice how it feels to stand. This view to the horizon, to the far. Just take your time to do whatever you need to. Face this feeling in your body. Make your body familiar with it. To make it your own. It's yours. No one can take it away. You can stand there. And also take your time to step out of it, not losing the experience. Yeah, I hope people who came just in now, we started with experiencing to stand, which is part of the poem that will be read at the end. And yeah, we have time until the full hour, kind of to open the ground. I didn't prepare a presentation or so, but I would share, and I would love to have you come in with whatever comes up for you. And maybe even you would like to have a pen and paper. Yeah, maybe that's any way you practice to make notes. Maybe also about this here, we can take 2 minutes to how was it to stand there, this feeling of standing.
The standing reminded me of Jean in his work with clients saying, can you stand it for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
Can you be with that? And standing it has such many meanings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, can you stand it?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Standing for something.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding.
Mm-hmm.
What happens to me is I'm a person who loves being in motion, moving, walking, anything active. And yet I find whenever I do embodied standing, focusing, I lose touch. I space out. So when Lynn was saying those, when I imagine standing, or those words that you said, Lynn, I could feel my spine straighten and I could feel myself more connected. But so I don't know what happens to me, but something happens when I'm actually, I can't help but close my eyes when I was standing and I went away somewhere, almost falling asleep standing up. So I don't know, I've not heard of somebody else who has that phenomenon. And I know a lot of people prefer that, focusing that way. So I just thought I'd put it out.
Mm-hmm.
Guess you or somebody has thoughts. Don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm. So you felt your spine straightened and a sense of falling asleep.
No, that's what I feel connected. I can connect to standing better when I'm sitting.
You can connect.
And when I'm actually standing is when I space out
mm-hmm.
and go away.
Mm-hmm. When you stand, you space out and you go away. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's hard to keep company. It's hard to have the observer mind as I'm standing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I felt a sense of ease, of effortless balance, flow, and not even connection, but a lack of boundaries between what was previously the body and was previously the environment. And just because connection implies one thing to another, but this was just a vast openness and ease.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm. An effortless balance and a vast openness and peace. I would like to invite you to take this experience of standing a little bit further or with us into this complexity or even chaos. And I say it again because I think more people came in between. So I would like to offer you a certain TAE move today. And I think many of you are familiar with TAE steps, right, that were created in the context of university to engage students to think from a felt sense and to create concepts and theories from a felt sense. And the way I learned TAE was also, it started in a university context, and it was actually like a very different environment to that I had experienced up then. Like, it was, think it doesn't have to be ready yet what you think. Go to the place where you don't know something yet. I don't know, many sentences were like, what are you saying here? It's so different. So that made me feel like, okay, this is what I need if I want to keep going in research. But then the way I learned it with this experiential concept coaching was also a lot about to bring it into your field. Not just university, but for me, example, like I'm also doing research, but I also work in education and adult education. I teach German as a foreign language, and I work with adults, but also younger people. And the last years a lot with refugees, right? So I was a lot confronted with, the war reality and everything that comes with that. Young adult that just left their country and escaped without their families, all this complexity that came. But all this is having to go into a new language, which you haven't chosen, which you didn't choose. And so I find it quite interesting, this, like, how can we use the TAE moves in certain fields? That was kind of a focus, and that's the invitation here too. And especially about the second step, find what is more than logical in your felt sense. So maybe just now you would like to think about something that you as a helper in whatever field you are active, with whatever reality you are faced through your clients or students, like what is something, paradox, more than logic, chaotic, complex. Just an open invitation that you can later also explore in the breakout room. Like, what is it that, you have to stand with your clients or students maybe. Just get a felt sense of it, not explaining it yet or something like that. But what's a felt sense that comes for that complexity? While you're maybe still sensing into that or writing, I'd like to bring in another inspiration that comes from the poem. Yeah, I said at the beginning I really liked I could bring a poem here. And mine comes from a poet whose name is Wolfgang Borchardt. He is a German poet, and I find him very inspiring. So his life was actually, like, in very young age, he became a soldier in the Second World War, like, kind of no choice. This is happening now, you go there, and he had to face this reality. And but he was kind of standing there, so he spoke up against Nazism, and he had to face several troubles for that. He was sent to court and stuff like that. So I find that very inspiring now, to be in such a complex, difficult situation, and like, what does motivate to keep speaking up, to give words to what doesn't feel right, what's complex. Yeah, and then after the war, he was very sick. He had to stay in bed most of the time, but he wrote some short stories and poems. And one of it speaks about that. And there he says the complexity is like the wind, it's like wind or storm, or like rain or like fire. And so the invitation now is also like, if you imagine, the felt sense you have about something complex in your field as a helper, what is something, if you bring this in, like a crossing in TAE, we can do these crossings, we can hold two things and see what comes up from that. If you bring in the quality of wind or storm and you in the midst of it, on the quality of rain, on the quality of fire, what becomes noticeable then? Yeah, maybe feel free also to share or to what's present for you right now, comments or questions or whatever is needed at the moment. We have a couple of minutes for that. And before you go to breakout room, I would offer you kind of questions for the breakout rooms. So just right now, if there's something you would like to give words.
I think we also need room for those that might have had trouble finding something, that you wanted to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
So any comments, any thoughts are welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Some people may not be so familiar with TAE and focusing on ideas rather than focusing on your life situation.
Mm-hmm. Maybe you can also offer some examples. For example, in my field of work, it's something I find very paradox, or on the one hand, I'm kind of full of respect of people who escape war, like the one I meet in my work field, and it's important to make space and offer, them to come. And on the other hand, at the same time, we now realize those people who create the conflicts in the places where they escaped are taking this too. So the conflict comes too. I find this is something I find complex.
Mm-hmm. The wanting to welcome and the wanting to
kind of having a welcoming place to leave a complex situation and knowing that the complexity comes with it. If you can't set a border for certain things, it always comes all with the people and the person. How do you differentiate between people who are brave enough to leave a war situation and people who just say, okay, I go everywhere and cause troubles, like to say it very, it's almost very, feels icky to say it, these are also things, like TAE also invites us to speak about things that are so hard to say.
Yes.
Maybe someone would come and judge us for that, maybe, someone would say, okay, that's a very stupid thought. That's what you have to think about that. The TAE really also, as I understand, Champlin, or that's a huge curiosity about TAE, is to, but try to find words in this complexity, also against the common understanding, or the one that speak into taboos, or what's more here to say, break with the common language barrier.
What I thought of was the clients that need to say no to life and think about killing themselves and feel that as the life forward energy. That to have my say, to have my dignity, I have to be against life. I have to kill myself.
Mm-hmm.
That is very complex. And it's something about affirming the no in order to make room for the yes. And I thought of when you talked about the weather systems, I thought of one person for whom life is like a desert and surviving in the desert and wanting to say no to that beating down sun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
what I'm thinking is the word authenticity.
Authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, to be authentic, but in life, in therapy, our clients may have trouble to be authentic, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
their real self or with their own ideas. But they are at the same time pursuing in that direction. They wanted to be someone who listened, to be real, but at the same time, they are facing the environment that is not so friendly, not so welcoming.
Hi, everybody. It's a BJ. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Good. Thank you so much, Monica, for being here. I enjoy so much the videos and the programs I've participated in when you have been in leadership. What came for me is the complexity of illness and working with folks who are ill, including myself. And the phrase that came is, how do we live until we die? The courage that's required, the paradoxical nature of it, how to die youthfully, the paradox of that, the joy and the beauty, the normality of youthfulness, and how to bring all of that into growing down as opposed to growing up.
Yeah, thank you. Then there's always like a question, like, how does it feel to be able to say that? The law of TAE, it engages us to give it words, and then we can say this is already occurring, into implying that shifts, that create shifts, that we can say more about this. We can give it words. How does it feel to say it, especially in such an audience? Others are listening and support. There's something else that wants to be shared now?
I just want to say I love that question, Monica. How does it feel to say that?
Mm.
I think of TAE in its emphasis on words, like to feel into growing up and growing down and all that's in that. Or in my instance, saying yes to life or saying no to life. Those words then have a whole life in them. But I haven't thought as much about the question of how does it feel to put something into words that you haven't put into words before.
Mm. I see Liz, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you, and thanks, BJ. Yes, I'm marking that down. How does it feel to say that? To me, that felt that it really made it. I'm thinking of as a psychotherapist with a client, and to me, it really made it relational.
Mm.
It's how does it feel to say that to me?
Mm. Mm-hmm. And here, how does it feel to say that to us?
Well, it brings up so much that's not just in one's individual mind, brings it outward, carries it outward. Now you're being listened to as you say that or think aloud.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And then the saying, for me, there's also this gesture of standing for it. You know,
Yes, yes.
in a group, a social environment, then of course there are very many different. Like this is a support group. We all know focusing. And then imagine about these many other social environments out there, you know, where it can be quite difficult to say the same thing. So it maybe needs another process to think about how could I say something like that there. We're just imagining this poet like speaking up as a soldier in the army against something, you know, like seems like almost impossible for me. But what did that mean to do that, to be connected to a felt sense and do that? That's a very powerful force for me, or power. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would like to show you some guiding questions for the breakout room where you can deepen that experience. And I will put it in the chat too, so you can have it on your computer. And it's kind of repeating what we just did now. Invite a felt sense for a work situation or topic or concern. And what is something more than logic in it? So I also like this question to say there's, you know, you're always looking for the more than logic, because Jensen writes this in his introduction to TAE also, what seems illogical may be the most valuable part, like to also treasure this complexity, chaotic thing, what might be hard to stand. So what's more than logic in it, or something complex, paradox, tricky, against the unusual understanding. So these are kind of offers for variation. And you see just whatever resonates with you. And then, yeah, TE really engages this finding words and them being very precise. And precision means you have this felt shift feeling of, oh yeah, it's that. So you could formulate a sentence that names this crux of your felt sense, like, it is A and it is B, or on the one hand and on the other hand, or it is A and it isn't A. So, or just phrase a sentence that expresses the crux. Kind of look for this, feeling of, that's it. You know, that's the best way to say it. And the last invites again to feel, like when you hear the sentence, you can ask your partner to say it back to you. How does it feel to hear that and to stand in the midst of it and be good? This is another phrase, part of the poem, so maybe we'll connect later. But and I see this is not the version I wanted to show. You will have a better one, because here it should be stand in the mid of it and sense what is the carrying forward direction. Like in the poem, he will say, and try to be good. I would say we can say it as, what is the carrying forward here? And it might come up as words already, or as a sense, a felt sense. So I share it in the chat, and you have it, and then you also have the version I heard.
This is BJ. I was Marianne's partner, and I'd love to just say back that one sentence. I can connect with courage, which I don't know I have until I stand in that place. Thank you, Marianne.
Mm-hmm. 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 Though standing in these opposites and holding them and feeling them and being them opened up something.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Marga.
Yeah. I worked with Leonor, and we ran out of time. I think because probably I talk too much. So, Leonor, I hope we can make up for some other time. But so the phrase I came up with is space opened up for increased compassion, especially towards one of the sides of the polarity that was the one with more difficulty in it.
Mm-hmm. Kind of your key sentence that sums it up, that what you get from it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course 10 minutes is like quite short, and then also impressive to see how much can happen in 10 minutes. Right? 20 minutes we had. When we stay there, make space for that, and speak into that and find words for it. Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say, listening also with Marga, it's helpful in itself in terms of my own conflict, my own tension between the two. And I felt that until I can find a place of balance between the two, it's important for me to bring in a sense of gentleness and caring to those places, even if I'm not able to go forward with it yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you speak about this, how important it is to kind of create an environment of care. Being in this, to be able to be there, to go there, to hold that, towards yourself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I see Dorothy.
I love that what you just said, Monica, creating environment of care, because that's what I felt the whole time in meeting you. There's some way that you create this environment of care with almost a minimum amount of words. And it just enabled me, like in the breakout room, to to go to a much deeper place of accepting those polarities.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about like being a leader and how, because I'm much more soft spoken and often quiet, I've denied that I have any part of myself that can be a leader. And it just broadened somehow, just the whole atmosphere that you created broadened my way of thinking, and the polarities weren't so fixed in time. And I don't know if I could find one of my sentences, but just something about that image of standing tall, of starting in that place, of giving me my body. Because as you stand there, more and more, I grow taller and into my body. Then I'm finding a position where I don't have to collapse, or I'm more aware of the possibility of collapse, and I can pay attention to it and keep it from happening because I don't want to collapse. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for letting me know this and for sharing this. Yeah, I find it interesting you say the polarities aren't so fixed. All this what we can understand better with Chantlin, how everything is in creation, and we can influence this creation. Even things that seem so complex or as polarities, or by giving it our attention and creating this kindness, and also what you said, quite interesting, your body feels different in being with that. That's how I understood it. Yeah. Take that to be able to receive that from the space we create through focusing, where we invite everything with everything to create a little bit of difference, let's say, and then all of a sudden it doesn't appear so polar anymore, or something new shows up, or just opens the varieties of what can happen beyond the existing logic of what we think we have to deal with problems or complexity. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, what we say about the environment, the experience with me, I find that quite interesting, because kind of one of the things I learned when I learned focusing in TAE, and then I went to an environment which didn't know about focusing in TAE, my workplace, this institute for further education, these classrooms, is that I can't create focusing set. Yeah, I can do, but most of the time it's like how I am, knowing this complexity exists and knowing kind of everybody is going through this, and when we are all dealing with it makes a difference. And at the moment, I understand it has to do something with the attitude, a lot how oneself treats oneself, also how I treat myself as a teacher in these complex situations. Like, for example, sometimes I had classes where no one spoke German, and 10 different languages, and kids who just cross continents have to sit on tables in a classroom. And so such a weird situation, and just making space for myself in this. Of course, but of course, with the focusing, of course, like feeds back to how the people there can be kind of, yeah, especially as a teacher, for example, you have a power to create an environment by how you are with yourself and how you allow yourself to experience this complexity or this struggles or this, sorry, I don't know what we do now. It's so new and overwhelming, but let's just sit here and, I don't know, do a game together or read a book. Yeah, read a book, not, but a song or listen to a song or whatever. Yeah. But this importance of how creating an environment for oneself creates then the environment for the others is, I think, this highly interaction, what comes with this term interaction first from Gentle's philosophy, how we are highly interactive with each other. Yeah. Marga, I see you speaking, but you're muted.
Sorry, yes. Yeah, I wanted to kind of go back to what you said, see if I understood one part that really intrigued me, which is, I heard you say that if when one is in a strange or difficult situation, like you teaching German in a class where you are the only German speaker, you first had to, so you are talking about how to going first to creating an interaction within yourself about the difficulty is probably the path of creating a different interaction with others in the situation. Did I hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a very rich thing for me to think about. Yeah.
Yeah, especially inviting these inner space, which we get to know through focusing and TE, these inner movements. Knowing there's always more than we can say, which is kind of obvious in a situation where I don't share the language, but then it's also not, but just, yeah, knowing this exists for everybody and it needs kindness. Kind of, that's, yeah, would be a TAE process to spell this out more, but I just noticed it was kind of, yeah, helping me to view this complexity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Monica, I'd like to say back a poem phrase that you created on the spot. You said, ease back to how the people there can be. Mm-hmm. So full of information.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's time Dorothy's going to speak about the poem and the poet. Yeah.
I know Monica has introduced us to this poet who she walked on the beach with when she was 18, and that really rang true for me because I remember that's when I started getting extremely interested in poetry and remember maybe not walking on the beach, but walking on the college grounds with Yevtushenko, the city of yes and the city of no, another polarity. But I was so struck when I was, Katerina often sends me the poem that when somebody has requested, as Monica did, a poet, and I like to look up the poet. And as Monica said, what a struggle to have his strong views about humanitarianism and how to treat people, and then be drafted into the first the Hitler Youth, and how hard that was for him to be in the Hitler Youth, and all the ways he tried to get out of it and to out of the army it's just, and then he got into theater and was a poet. And just when I heard that he died at the age of 26, it felt so sad to me. All the suffering that he had to go through, having been in this war. But Katerina is going to be reading in German and in English. So on to you, Katerina.
Ja. Versuche gut zu sein. Stehe mitten den Regen. Glaube an den Tropfensegen. Spinn dich in die Rauschen ein und versuche gut zu sein. Stand in the middle of the green. Believe in the blessing of the raindrops. Get carried away by the sound of the rain and try to be good. Stell dich bitte in den Wind, glaube an ihn und sei ein Kind. Lass den Sturm in dich hinein und versuche gut zu sein. Stand in the middle of the wind, believe in it, and be a child. Let the storm into you and try to be good. Stell dich mitten in das Feuer, liebe dieses Ungeheuer, in des Herzens rotem Wein und versuche gut zu sein. Stand in the middle of the fire, love this monster in the red wine of your heart and try to be good.
Wow.
You know, there's something I don't understand. The to be good, is that meant like try to be good with it, accept it, like it's okay, or you know, like be with it, or is it try to be good, like try to be a good person? I'm a little confused.
Yeah, well, as I understand it, like, yeah, almost, yeah, try to be a good person. Like we would say, follow your felt sense in this. Believe in you and what you stand for. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to add, like, even so, from his bio, he had, like, you know, short, tragic life. I'm very impressed of the engaging energy that comes through his short stories and poems. That's what I really value about this poet. Very engaging, like, okay, be connected with yourself, trust the good energy and live it, stand for it. Yeah, like to add, give it words, like give it concepts, give it action, give it, live it. Great.
Just to add to that, to all that he said, gives like standing in the middle of the wind, you know, or the fire. It's often a reason to burst out or to push away or whatever, but he's seeing the dichotomy of standing in the fire and yet being good. You know, there's this challenge. It's a challenge. Yeah. Thanks.
Challenge, yeah. We find through this this invitation or this movement through TAE, or what we also learn, always focusing is like that here can be rich and that can be a treasure if you learn or manage to stand there. Not to go away, not to suppress it, not to,
One of the lines that came out of my speaking with Dorothy in the breakout room was not to be crumbling in the weight of another.
Thank you, Katarina, for reading it so thoughtfully.
He was such a good tutor for the pronunciation. Thank you. And everyone, we're closing soon, and next week we'll be back. Yes, with Russell Delman next week. So, Mikhail, a colleague of yours, and thank you, Monica. We will follow your progress, especially with the embodied critical thinking that we've been reading avidly since Greg Walkerton was here giving help for helpers. He talked about focusing vastness and embodied critical thinking, of which you are. It's lovely how it comes full circle, the help for helpers. And it was a treasure having you today. So,
it was a pleasure and a gift, and I really appreciate you have this weekly space and gathering.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
be well, everyone. Yes.